All right, last step in 9.4, we're going to create our own pie charts. So the steps are listed here for you. So the first step is to find a percent for each category if it hasn't been given. Then what you want to do is figure out what percent of your circle is going to be occupied by each category or wedge. So what you can do is change each percent to a decimal and then multiply by 360 degrees. Because you know the entire circle is going to be 360 degrees, you want to find out how many degrees then your wedge is going to be. After that, you're going to find the center of the circle. There's many ways to do this, but I'm going to show you by drawing two faint lines across it and seeing where they intersect. Then you're just going to draw a line. And really, you can start anywhere. A lot of people like to start at the 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock position. And that marks the edge of your first wedge. That's kind of funny, edge of wedge. Okay, then you're going to use a protractor to figure out the angle needed to create that first wedge. And then from there, you'll go and do your second one. So let's do one together. Oh, and then very important, I shouldn't forget, make sure you're giving the chart a title and that you label all of your wedges. So here we have some data. We're told the number of TVs per household and the percent of US homes that have this many TVs. So percentage has already been given to us, which is great. So step A is already done. The next step is to figure out the number of degrees each category occupies. So we're going to change each of these percents to decimals. So 5 would be 0.05. Multiply it by 360 degrees. And what does that give us? 18. So in other words, our first wedge there is going to be 18 degrees big. Okay, and then we can do the same thing down the table. So 0.16 times 360 gives us, let's round to the nearest degree, so 58 degrees, and so on. So go ahead and figure out the degrees of the next two categories as well. And I get 94 degrees and 191 degrees. And if I add up all my degrees, I get about 361 degrees. It should be a total of 360, but that's just because there's a bit of rounding error there since I rounded to the nearest degree. So it's about 360. That's good. Okay, next step is to find the center of the circle. And so the way I do that is I grab a ruler and I find any line that's the widest line in our circle. So I've got a circle here that's almost 7 centimeters, and so I'm going to have a line. Now this should be a faint line. So here's my first one. And then just do the same thing somewhere else. So try to find the widest point of the circle somewhere here. Okay, and then that will give you the center of the circle. Like I said before, there's a lot of ways to do this. And some are really neat and use really cool geometries. So you can look those up on YouTube if you want. Otherwise, this is kind of a quick and dirty way to do it. That does not look like the center, does it? Oh my goodness. Well, I can test that just by measuring from the center to a point. I get about 2.9 centimeters. Oh my goodness, that way I get like 35. Okay, I did not do that very well. Let's try again. Okay. It's possible this isn't a circle. Is that possible? Yeah, this is more of an oval, unfortunately, at least on my screen. Maybe it got a bit squished. Okay, I will go back and redo the notes here and make sure you have a legitimate circle. But we're going to do the best we can. So I'm going to draw my two lines here. Oopsies. Get something like that. Let's see if that does a little better. That looks better to me. So this would be the center of the circle. It's not perfect. And again, this isn't really a circle, it's more of an oval. So I'll change that in your notes, but that will be good enough for what we need. And then we're just going to draw our first wedge. So I'm going to do, or the first line of our wedge. So I'm going to do it at about 12 o'clock. Okay, that's going to become the 0 on your protractor. So we want our first category to be 18 degrees. So I'm going to line up my protractor with the 0. And then from there, I'm going to flip my protractor around so it's not upside down. Let's try that again. There we go. And then you're going to measure 18 degrees. Now on my protractor, and likely on yours too, I can't actually get that on the circle. So I'm going to draw a dot way up here where it lines up with 18 degrees. I'm going to remove my protractor and basically extend the line from the center of the circle to that dot. Now I don't have to go all the way. I can just go to the edge of the circle. But maybe I'll just draw it in for you. So this is what the line I'm kind of drawing here to get out to the dot that was my 18 degrees. So that's how you measure 18 degrees. Now we've got this wedge that is 18 degrees, and that was people who have 0 TVs in their home. Okay, from there, we can move forward. So now where I draw this arrow, this line right here, that's going to become our new 0 degrees, because from that line, we want to measure an additional 58 degrees so that our second wedge is 58 degrees. So I'm going to line up the protractor with 0 on that line and then measure 58 degrees, which takes me to this dot over here. So then I can draw my straight line from the center of the circle to that dot, which gives me this here. And that category is people with 1 TV, and so on. So now we go to the most recent line we just drew. That becomes our new 0. And this time we want 94 degrees. So we're going to line that up as a 0 on our protractor. And then we're going 94 degrees, which takes me to, try that again here. Somewhere here is 94 degrees. So I can connect that with the center of my circle, and that gives me my next wedge. And so that wedge I've just created is households that have 2 TVs. Now the remaining one should be 3 or more, which is 191 degrees. It's always good to check that that's 191 degrees. Your protractor only goes to 180 degrees. So what I recommend, and we're going to do this faintly because we're not going to keep this line, but if we did 180 degrees, that would be a straight line. So that would be like 180 degrees right here. And so then just to double check and make sure everything's working out the way it should, we can measure that final one. It should be around 11. I'm going to extend this line just so I can measure it on my protractor. And what do I get? So I get about 12 degrees, which is pretty close. So we are on the right track. As long as you're plus or minus about 2 degrees, I'm happy with that because protractors aren't completely accurate. So here we go. I'm just going to erase this little double check here. And so that final, the largest wedge I have here is the number of homes with 3 or more TVs, which is the majority, which actually surprises me. Okay, and so we want to label our title. I've already labeled all wedges. By the way, if they were longer titles, I could have done it like this too, could have done like that, but they were short enough that I was able to just label them right within the wedge. And then I want a title that says what I'm showing, which is number of TVs per household, per American household, I guess. Number of TVs per American household. Okay, and we don't know what year this data was given, so we won't write that in, but that will give us a pretty good title. Okay, This next one is another pie chart where this time we're looking at the number of reviews of different stars. So how many people gave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-star reviews? Okay, so this time a percentage hasn't been given to us. So first we need to calculate that. So to calculate a percentage, we need to know the total. So I'm going to add up the total number of reviews. So I'm just adding all of this column. So 640 plus 180 plus 80 plus 40 plus 60. And that gives me 1,000. Okay, so now I can calculate each of these percents. You can use a percent box if you want. So I get 6, whoop, no, maybe I 0.64. I think I did that one. 640 divided by 1,000. And then I would have to multiply it by 100. Oh no, I'm just getting confused. Okay, so that's 64%. And then you can go on and do the same thing. So 180 divided by 1,000 gives you the decimal answer. To convert it to a percent, you'd have to multiply by 100, which would give you 18, and so on. So go ahead and calculate those. And what you should get is 8, 4, and 6 here. Okay, and those should all add up to 100. So let's check and make sure we did that right by checking that they all add up to 100, and they do. Okay, now we need the number of degrees each wedge is going to occupy. So we're going to take the decimal of our percent and we're going to multiply it by an entire circle, which would be 360 degrees. So we'll do that for each category. So go ahead, pause this video and calculate that column. Okay, and so hopefully you had a chance to do that. What you should get, oh, I don't have this, so I'm going to have to do it. Okay. Okay, so these are the number of degrees I get for each category if I round to the nearest degree, and then I'm going to do a quick check and make sure they add up to at or nearly 360 degrees, and I'm at 359.6 degrees, so that makes sense. I guess it would be, yeah, it should be 360 degrees, I think. Yeah, oh dear. Let me try one more time. 360 degrees. Okay, good. Okay, so we've got 360 degrees. We're going to find the center of the circle. And so we're looking for the widest point of the circle, and we're going to draw a line there. So that is somewhere here. And then you're going to do it on the other side or somewhere else as well. And that should help you locate approximately the center of the circle. I'm a little bit off here. It should be a bit down on my last line. That's not the widest point. So it is somewhere down here, actually. Okay, and that gives me an approximate center of the circle up there. And I'm going to start at 12 o'clock for my first wedge. So the first line, like I said before, is kind of somewhat arbitrary. We just start our first wedge. We want that first wedge to have a total number of degrees of 230 degrees. Now this one's a little bit tricky. We need 230 degrees. Our protractor only goes to 180. So remember, any straight line is 180 degrees. So I'm going to just pencil in a straight line here. Okay, that's 180 degrees. You know you need 50 degrees beyond that 180 degrees. So now you can use your protractor to measure 50 degrees. And that puts me somewhere here. Okay, so our first category then is quite big in this case. This is a good ice cream maker because most of the reviews are 5-star. Okay, and it looks a little wiggly on the screen, but please use a ruler and your line should be completely straight. And so this is 5-star reviews. I'm just going to erase my pencil mark there. Okay, next up we have 4-star, which was 65 degrees. So moving on from the most recent line we just drew, we're going to measure 65 degrees. Which puts me here, and that's the 4-star reviews. And then from our most recent line, once again, we're going to measure. So from that most recent line, we're measuring 29 degrees. So there's our 3-star reviews. Then 14 degrees for our 2 stars. So 14 degrees. Okay, and it might have been more logical to start at 1, so this graph went around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but this way works too. So 14, oops. So very small wedge for 2-star reviews. So I'm going to label that one like this, just because I can't fit it inside. And then our 1-stars are the remaining. And let's just do a double check by checking that that is approximately 22 degrees. So that final 1-star wedge should be 22 degrees. Mine is closer to 30, which is not good. Let me double check my others. Oh, I've got a problem with my 14 degrees here. So my 2-star reviews were incorrect. They are 10 degrees off, so I'm going to redo that. Let's try again. So I guess this is a good way to show why the double checking is good. I lined it up with the 10 degrees instead of the 0 degrees. So here is 14 degrees. That looks better. Okay, so this is my 2-star reviews. And then this remaining chunk should be about 22. And yes, it is 22 degrees. Yay. Okay. So this chart looks better. By the way, if you want to add some color in here, you're welcome to. You can make each of your wedges a different color, but it's not necessary. And okay, so we've done everything. We've labeled our wedges. The only thing we haven't done yet is title this. So this is going to be, it's like the number of stars in Ice Cream Maker reviews. So stars given, number of stars given for Ice Cream Maker reviews. And that is your pie chart.